Thanks for joining us for our Chamber Connection podcast. Thanks to our friends at Speakeasy, we are here for the next 52 weeks, bringing you guests from around our community, elected officials, business owners, folks doing great work here in Macomb County. So sit back, take a listen, and we hope you'll join us every week for our Chamber Connection.
Hi, my name is Stacy and I'm the president and CEO of the Sterling Heights Regional Chamber of Commerce. Thanks for joining us today on our latest edition of the Chamber Connection. We're happy to be here today. You know, it's a new year. Everyone has some New Year's resolutions and some new goals. And so I'm here today with Justin, the executive director of Macomb St. Clair Michigan Works. Justin, good morning.
Morning, Stacy. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here this morning. And someone's New Year's resolution a lot of times is, I'm going to look for a new job. I need to change my career path. You're there for them, aren't you? Tell us a little bit about what you do at Michigan Works.
Absolutely. So Michigan Works, I like to say, is a very well-kept secret.
I agree.
People often associate us just with the unemployment insurance agency, but we are a completely separate entity. We are part of the process. For example, when people apply for unemployment insurance, they do have to register for work with us, but that connection, sometimes people mistake us as the UI office. But we're actually, what I like to say is we are more focused on employment. So we work with people to find jobs. We work with employers, job seekers, anyone who's looking to find a new job, better job, career, anything.
So what are some, you're right that you are the best kept secret. And I think there's just, this anomaly that, you're only there for certain people. You are there for our entire community.
Correct. So we do have services, what we call universal services, that have no income requirements, open to anybody. These include our workshops for people that are looking to maybe beef up their resume, work on their interview skills, or just help with their job search. We also have services for people to sit down and just talk to a career planner. Maybe they have an idea they're thinking of and they want to just bounce the idea off someone about, hey, is this something good to go into for the next 5-10 years? We do have other programs that do have some income and type eligibility requirements, especially around our tuition reimbursement programs. That's what Michigan Works is very famous for, especially if you go back 12 years to like the No Worker Left Behind era. But we do have other services that are open to anybody, like you said.
So what are some, if I'm someone that's looking to change my career path, you talk about all the time, you've been in a role a long time, maybe you've got skills, maybe you've got ideas, the resume workshops that you have. How much does that cost for someone to attend?
Everything is no charge.
See, and I think
everything is no charge.
Resume writers are very expensive. So to have a great service like this, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and resume writing is an interesting thing because it's an art, not a science.
Absolutely.
Right? You could go to 10 different people and they'll tell you 10 different ways to write a resume. So in our workshop, we kind of go over, you have to consider the job you're applying for and the type of employer, because different employers might want to see resume in a time frame format or a functional format. We'll go into details on that at the workshop, but we talk about those sort of considerations, and same thing with like interviewing too.
Yeah.
You have to know what type of employer you're sitting down with and the position you're working with when it comes to interviews, so hey, how should I prepare? Should I have, a very formal setup, or would it be more conversational? We cover those kind of things in the workshops.
And I think we can all say this, is that we are the worst at talking about ourselves and the good things that we do. So you guys help find those diamonds in the rough of someone that might help that person get the job.
Absolutely. And I don't think I have to tell anyone that, it's a rough labor market now.
It is a tough labor market.
Especially for our employers that are looking to hire, as we're still, working to get back to normal from the pandemic, if you can say back to normal from the pandemic. So any job seeker we see that comes in that's applying for unemployment insurance, we are definitely working with them closely to say, listen, there are jobs. Don't just take the first job you find. We can work with you, maybe get you an on-the-job training, maybe send you back to school to get that certificate, and you can fill a better job than you had before. So it's really a job seekers market, which is, in my lifetime, I think this is the first time it's been a job seekers market. So it's been a little bit of a change for us as an agency. We are very much set up for what I call the recessions, where, lots of job seekers. There's an influx
of job seekers coming your way.
And we're kind of in the opposite. We're still trying to work hard to help our hospitality employers, because those are the ones that seem to have the most issue with finding people and getting people to stay and stay employed. Manufacturing a little bit, but I think that's getting better. it's just a very weird labor market. It's just not one that we are, I'll say, traditionally set up for, but we're working to kind of retrain our staff and get them.
I don't think it's one we're familiar with. We haven't been in this situation, your lifetime, my lifetime.
No.
You know, a lot of our small businesses that we at the chamber work with, this is an unexpected issue for them.
Absolutely. There's nothing to say about it. It's just very new.
It's one of those things we talk about all the time. So if you are that job seeker, you're telling people don't take the first job that's out there, how are you helping them find that right fit for them?
Let me clarify. We're not necessarily saying don't take the first job out there. It's let's take a look and see what is the best job we can get for you.
How do you help someone find the best fit for them?
So a lot of it has to do with, obviously, we do an inventory of their skills, their past experience, and then we'll work in some of, what are their personal preferences. We know that people are more likely to stay at a job, to be blunt, if they like it, if they love it.
Absolutely.
So if someone's like, yeah, you worked at this type of industry, but I hated it, we're like, okay, let's probably not look there, because if you get a job there, you're probably not going to stay and, really be focused on it. So we'll take into account their skills, their likes, dislikes about a job, and obviously what the labor market has and what's hiring. A lot of the areas that we're seeing good success in is anything that requires, really post-secondary credentials. So healthcare is good. Advanced manufacturing is good. IT is good. Those have always been kind of a big three that Southeast Michigan has been looking to grow and been able to depend on. One of the new emerging things is electric vehicles. So I can't go to a meeting without someone saying electric vehicles. There's money to train people here. We're looking to transition in the next 5 to 10 years to doing that more and more. So it's nice to see support at both the federal, state, and local levels for the expansion of electric vehicles. I think it's a new and exciting industry. There's still a lot to learn about it too. For example, we work closely with Macomb Community College to learn more about what are the actual careers in this? What are the actual credentials people need?
And what do people need? What do people need to be successful?
You might need some of the basics, like, your computer numerical control. You still need your welders. You still need some robotics. But battery tech, I don't know what a battery tech does. So
I learned recently, like my mom's vehicle has 2 car batteries.
Yep.
Because one is for the electronics and one runs the vehicle. Who would have known?
And in 5-10 years, who knows what it'll be?
Right.
So it's a very exciting industry. I think it's something that Michigan can really look, especially Southeast Michigan, can look to, really grow around. We know the history and the prestige and pride of Southeast Michigan with auto manufacturing. This is the next step, and I think it's something that we're well set up to be a leader in.
And one of the things that if I'm correct, Michigan Works has done for years has been in helping retrain folks too into what's the latest and greatest. Yep. So right now you're looking at the EVs, electric vehicles. What other areas are you working with too?
Yes, there's certainly a lot of focus in electric vehicles, healthcare, anything that's open to apprenticeships. Also, we've done studies, and I shouldn't say we've done studies. We've read other studies that show that job seekers like jobs where they feel invested in and their employer cares about them. I don't think that's too surprising a statement. And one of the interesting models has been apprenticeships. Now, traditionally, we think of apprenticeships in plumbing and carpentry, but you could have an apprenticeship in anything. We're seeing them in medical assistance, and we're seeing them in nursing. We're seeing them in cybersecurity. We're seeing them all over the place where you wouldn't necessarily think. An apprenticeship just means that an employer selects and hires someone. Part of their time is working towards a credential at a community college, sometimes even a 4-year university. And in between, they're working with the employer. So I like to say it's a win-win in many ways. For the job seeker, you're getting a credential and you're working right away. You're getting money.
You're getting paid.
You don't got to wait 6 months. You don't have to wait 6 months before you start earning money. And for the employer who's saying, gosh, I need people now, you have someone that's there
and wants to learn.
You can kind of show them the ropes and mold them to your specific company. So I would say EV and apprenticeships are big. Healthcare is going to be big hiring for the next at least 10, 15 years, I think. There is some work to look at expanding training for RN, because that seems to be the bottleneck. the biggest bottleneck in healthcare is registered nurses.
Sure.
Pretty good about turning out CNAs and LPNs, but it's the RN that takes a little more work. Some of the schools have different eligibility requirements. And then IT, that field changes drastically
Daily,
every couple years. I have several family members in IT, and they are always going back to school for another certification. What's that? Oh, it's just something brand new that Microsoft came out with,
Sure.
or a new cybersecurity related, plugin, whatever the term they use is. So I think those are the big three we always look at in Macomb and St. Clair counties: is manufacturing, healthcare, and IT. That's not to say that other things, we see a little bit popping up in agriculture from time to time.
Macomb County's it's got a
Yep.
large agriculture community, so that makes sense.
Yep. We get a lot of requests for support for hospitality, and that's just going to be a tough one going forward, to be completely honest. There tend to be, while the wages have gone up, they tend to still be lower paying jobs in
Right.
other industries, tougher to fill. Excuse me. We're also seeing fewer and fewer, to be honest, teenagers enter the labor force at 16, 17. When I got my first job at 16, and so did all my friends, you're seeing that less and less. So oftentimes those types of jobs might be filled by teenagers and people in college working their way through. For a variety of reasons, we're just not seeing that. So I think that's what's really hurting the industries also.
Yeah, we have got a lot of small businesses that we work with that have changed how they hire. When you look at retention bonuses, or bring your friend with you to work, and their recruitment bonuses.
Yep.
Those are things we didn't see before.
Yeah, and we're seeing more flexible hours. We're
Yeah.
certainly seeing work from home opportunities continuing. Even Michigan Works, I still offer 1 day work from home for some of our staff because I don't want to lose them, right? I don't want to. So we have to offer different incentives. So it's again, job seeker market. So you're going to see more benefits and advantages going their way. But I think it's an ongoing changes that are going to keep going until we get to a new equilibrium.
Well, I hate to use this word because I hate it, but it's kind of an unprecedented job market in terms of where we're at, that we haven't seen this before. There's
Absolutely.
talks of
Absolutely.
an upcoming recession this year,
Yep.
so that might even change things again.
Yeah, it's I was an economics major, so I pay attention to this stuff very
good.
carefully and keep an eye towards it. We are reading a lot about at least a mild recession in the next 6 to 12 months. And we'll have to see which industries are hit the hardest. Unfortunately, tradition says that manufacturing is often one that's hit hardest, and Michigan's still a large manufacturing state. So hopefully that we buck the trend this time. But it would make sense when you consider, inflation has stayed high for a while, and the supply chain still hasn't quite got back to equilibrium. At some point, consumers are going to say, gosh, can't keep spending money.
Every week there's
can't
a weird
keep investing.
thing that we can't find.
Yeah, it's definitely a concern we have.
What are you seeing from a job seeker in terms of what they're looking for besides, a job they like? But what are some of, when they're looking at weighing options, what are some of those things that employers need to keep in mind?
Definitely the flexibility that maybe hasn't been offered in the past. We've come across some of our manufacturing partners who are offering. They've added shifts, not because of work increase, but just so people can have that option to work those hours. One interesting one and this is several studies are showing this, is childcare is still an issue for a lot of job seekers. Now, there's been a lot of attention from the federal and state levels and a lot of funding and support to help get that back to normal. But we're finding that job seekers sometimes stay out because it's not worth paying, I don't know, $12 an hour.
It's very expensive for childcare that sometimes
Absolutely.
it negates the wages.
Absolutely. So there'll be an employer here and there that it sounds a little crazy maybe, but they'll all have a babysitting room
Sure.
in their company where parents can bring the child to work. They have a staff person that keeps an eye on them, but it's just another option that they might have to help with avoiding childcare costs. But I think childcare is a very common issue with people not coming back in. I think allowing flex time, things that maybe were offered at some employers before, wages, of course. I mean, that goes without saying. That's definitely a motivator.
How do you support the employer then too? Like you do a lot of work, but you also have employers coming to you. How do you work with them?
So with the employers, we try to understand what it is they're looking for. With people coming in to register for work with unemployment insurance, like I mentioned earlier, we have a steady stream of job seekers that are required to be looking for work.
Sure.
So that's an outreach angle that we can have directly. So we usually sell that to employers. A couple other things are the Going Pro Talent Fund. Is a way that we can help secure money for employers to train not just current employees, but also people they're looking to hire within the next year. So that's been something that we've been working on. They changed the Going Pro Talent Fund this year. There's now 2 training periods. One just closed back in late November, but we'll have another one open in mid-April.
Oh, fantastic.
April-ish, I should say mid-April-ish. So that would be an opportunity for employers to say, you know what, I am looking to hire 5 people in this. It'd be nice if I could send them to this class. That could be a way for us to get them money. So that's certainly another way we support employers. We also like to help them, if they're interested, set up apprenticeships. We have a team that we're putting together that works solely on just apprenticeships. And there's a lot of support from both the federal and state governments to fund those approaches and so forth. On-the-job training is something that's also been very popular. With the labor market being such high demand for job seekers, we've shied a little bit away from so much classroom training because people can find jobs now.
Sure.
So what we're looking at is, okay, if you're interested in this job and the employer wants to give you a shot, but maybe you haven't worked in the industry or it's been 10 years or something, an on-the-job training contract is where we'll say, okay, listen, for your first month or 6 weeks, what we'll do is we'll work with the employer and we'll help pay some of the training costs while you're on the job. So it's for a limited time. The job seeker is hired from day one, so the employer gets their person to work with them. But it also helps lessen that cost that's often overlooked when you go with hiring people, because you have to have someone train them and you have to have, lost productivity if someone's working with them instead of doing their normal job. So that's the idea with on-the-job training, is to help offset some of that cost the employers have.
And that seems like a really kind of, I don't want to say unique because it's probably been around for a long time, but something that's necessary, because we heard during the pandemic that the biggest issue for some of our manufacturers, for example, is training.
Absolutely.
Is training. Absolutely. And they train someone for a couple of months and then they leave. They might go somewhere else.
Yes.
So if they can train them and pay them well, because we all know how much it costs to onboard a new employee. So if you have assistance with this from an employer perspective, this is a great tool to utilize.
Absolutely. Yeah. Retention is another piece of the puzzle that, to be honest, we haven't quite looked into as much, but it's certainly, like you said, a concern, because it hurts when you've found a good person, they've been working with you 6 months, and then, hey, your rival down the street's going to pay them another $1 an hour.
Right. And
you just can't afford that, right? So I think that's where we're looking at some of these other things, like the flex time. That could be something that makes a difference. We mentioned, if the employer can help at all with childcare costs, that could be the difference between staying or going someplace else. So it's still a tough puzzle we're working on to help with the retention.
So you're new-ish in your role. I think you've gotten past the first year, so we usually don't talk about being new anymore. But what are some things that you learned in your time now at Michigan Works, and what are some changes you've made or things that ideas that you have on the horizon too?
So I came on board as director right when we were reopening from the pandemic. So I had worked with Michigan Works before. I had a mindset of, okay, this is how it is. There's lots of job seekers, few jobs. When we reopened, we thought, okay, the job seekers will come back in 6 months. Didn't happen. In 12 months, and now we're working on 18 months. And so we have to accept we're in a new labor market. And there's various reasons why people have decided to stay out of the labor market. It's just a reality we have to work through and work with them on. As far as ideas, we're looking at kind of doing these types of things, just getting the word out there, not just for job seekers, but for employers.
Yeah.
We do have capacity to add and support people. And to be honest, in this labor market, job seekers sometimes don't need our services, and that's fine. If they can get a good job on their own, we're great with that. But there might be some people that are like, gosh, I really don't want to go back to what I was doing.
Sure.
Or, my employer's gone.
I just talked to someone the other day who got laid off from a job in Chicago, so not here. And she said, I probably would have kept staying there and grinding.
Yeah.
But I realized after I got laid off, I didn't like it anymore.
Yep.
And we kind of find ourselves in those scenarios.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's something our career planners can work with people on. We have all these different, we call them inventories to, ask a series of questions about, do you like doing this?
Yeah.
And it sounds a little weird. It's almost like a psychology test, but you end up figuring out, you know what? I like working with my hands. So I'm probably not going to like your traditional office job.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I like working by myself. So you probably don't want to be in, a job that has lots of public interaction and so forth.
Office where you've got to talk to people all day long.
But those are things that are important for job seekers to really think about, because sometimes you may not consider and say, gosh, I have the skills for this and they like me, but I just don't like going to work. The work's not hard. It could be the environment, and people have their own personalities about where they're comfortable. And that's what we try to, that's what we hope to help place people in places not where they're getting good money and they're comfortable, but they're happy and they're going to stay.
So you have, I apologize, where are your locations throughout Macomb and St. Clair?
So we have 5 offices throughout Macomb and St. Clair, 1 in St. Clair in Port Huron, and then 4 in Macomb. So we have a new office in Warren on Van Dyke.
It's brand spanking, sparkling new, waiting for you.
Yep. We have 1 in Clinton Township on Hayes Road, Roseville on 12 Mile, and then Mount Clemens on North River Road. Right. So like I said, there's always capacity for more job seekers or employers to give us a call or go to our new website. If I can give that, it's msc-mw.org. Stands for Macomb St. Clair MichiganWorks.org. Again, msc-mw.org. We have not just career planners to work with job seekers, but we have a whole team of what we call business account managers to work just like a caseload, you could say, with employers to say, okay, you're hiring for these 5 positions. I'm going to go talk to our career planners. I'm going to go look in our database, and we're going to see if we can find people that could apply and be good fits.
Justin, I think that you guys are just a diamond in the rough that is waiting to be utilized in our county. And I hope that, we've been able to give you a little bit of a platform to talk about,
appreciate it. Thank you.
What you have out there. What's one thing you want our listeners to know kind of as we wind down, and as they're, what is one thing that Michigan Works can do for them that you think they need to remember?
I think the important thing is, whether you're a job seeker or an employer, we have something we can do to help you. We like to sometimes think of ourselves as maybe like an extension of an HR department with an employer. So yes, you will post your jobs, you will do your interviewing, but we could be another avenue to throw a wider net for employees. And if you're a job seeker, we have connections with employers in every industry. If there's anything you're interested in, we can help set up job shadows. We can have you go somewhere for a day and just see what it's like. You can say, gosh, you know what? I've always been interested in fill in the blank industry. We could find a way to say, okay, we have this employer partner. They're willing to have you go out there for a few hours and see what it's actually like. So I think to answer your question, we have something for anyone, whether they're a job seeker or an employer, and we'd love to help and help people get better jobs, help employers fill their positions.
So if I'm not mistaken, getting a new job is high on the list of New Year's resolutions, right?
Very commonly, yes.
It's right up there with lose weight and all these other things. And so I think that this is a great place where people can start. So Justin, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to you joining us on our next edition of the Chamber Connection.
Thanks for tuning in to the Chamber Connection. Be sure to check out information on the Sterling Heights Regional Chamber of Commerce website, our Facebook page, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We look forward to you connecting with us and tuning in next time.